Now let's speak to Mahama Ayariga, Member of Parliament for Boku Central, who, with his colleague Governor Sagboja, had written to the Bank of Ghana, seeking some information, triggering various provisions in the Right to Information Act to get some more information regarding this same headquarters project. Now, Honorable Ayariga, here's a governor speaking and seeking to clarify and defending the fact that the building is so necessary. They did not start building it today, etc. Are you satisfied with the explanations he's given in respect of your request made to it to give you further information on the project?
Not at all. I mean, I am definitely not satisfied with what the governor has put out. Assuming that he is responding to me, and I have not received any correspondence from him indicating that this is his response to me, even though a lot of the issues that we outlined in our letter to him, he appears to try to respond in relation to those queries. But I still do not hear him tell us exactly how much they have spent so far on the project and what is the present estimated completion cost of the project. And he clearly admits that the PPA approved it at $81 million, and he gives an indication that the EPA unfairly took that decision without any justification. And I'm wondering if he is suggesting that the PPA is so incompetent and incapable of evaluating a request for approval from them to have decided that what they really need for the project is $81 million and not what they came up with as the cost of the project, which is $121 million. So clearly, there are still issues there. I mean, fundamental issues about the pricing of the project. We haven't seen the information regarding variations to the project. So if the project was awarded at $121 million, have they varied the project? Is there a new cost above the $121 million? We don't know. So he has not answered many of the questions that we have posed. And so we will be asking for more if we are to be able to do a proper evaluation of what has happened at the central bank. We clearly are convinced that there is, overbloating of the project price. There's some corruption that has taken place there, and we will take all the steps to fight it. There's no doubt about the fact that Ghana at this stage did not need to expend over $200 million building a head office building for the Bank of Ghana. I mean, comparable buildings across the city have all done that at an average of, between $60 to $80 million, some even lesser. And so I really don't buy into the idea that central bank building, and the bank already has properties around, and some of the workers are working in those properties. And so he has even told us how many workers they have and how many workers will actually be working in the building to justify the space that they will need, the square meters that they say they are constructing. Because you have to indicate how many workers and how much space you need for each worker. And then, because if the average space that a worker needs is 10, you have no basis for going to construct, 20 square meters. I mean, that is wasteful of public resources. So all these are matters that we will pry into. You shouldn't think that, the lame response that he has given is going to end the matter. Indeed, it has provided more fuel for us to probe into a lot more things and to fight what we believe has taken place, which is grand corruption and at the highest level, and we will not tolerate it.
I see. He has promised to publish a detailed, account of the procurement matters, on the website of the Bank of Ghana. I must state that as of the time we were coming on air, and as of now, that publication hasn't occurred yet. But hopefully, that will come and address many of the issues that you have. But how about the issue about, committing such colossal amount of money to a building project when the country is in some economic difficulty? He sought to explain that the building did not start today. The building started some 3 years ago when the bank was making profit. Is that enough justification in your view for the building to continue progressing?
I'm saying that at no time during the tenure of Akufo-Addo's government was Ghana doing so well that there was a justification to spend that colossal amount of money on a central bank head office building. It is after you have resolved the issue of hospital beds in the rural parts of your country, after you have extended electricity everywhere, after you have made sure that people have water to drink, after you have made sure that people have the basic things in life, do you really have the luxury to go and spend such colossal sums of money on a central bank head office building? So he has no basis for telling us that at any time during the tenure of office of President Akufo-Addo, Ghana was doing so well that we could afford the luxury of spending such a colossal sum of money on a head office building of the central bank. Something that, in my opinion, is totally unnecessary, because the central bank already has enough space. They have regional offices that we know of. They have, a current office for the head office. They have other buildings where workers work from. And so for an economy like ours, you really have no basis for that kind of expenditure. If you was talking about the current building having structural problems, really, what kind of structural problems? And I don't think that whatever structural problems there warrant a decision to now go and expend that kind of money. You could fix the structural problems in the building. Other governors work in the same building and produce better results than what you are producing. And you think that your life is more important than their life, that you want to move out there and go and build some edifice at that cost. So I don't think there's a basis for spending that kind of money when Ghanaians are suffering, when the economy is hard, when you are imposing incessantly additional taxes, when the banking sector itself that you are regulating doesn't have money to lend to businesses. And where it has money to lend to businesses, it lends at a ridiculous high price that the people who take the money will not be able to run companies and businesses that can be competitive in relation to imported goods from abroad. Then you tell me that your economy is doing so well, or that it was doing so well that you can afford to spend that kind of money. It just doesn't wash. So I disagree with everything that he has said. We are still going to hold him accountable. We still demand that he must resign. And as indicated by our leader by a letter sent to the police today, we are still planning to go out there and demonstrate until he leaves office.
I see. He also points to the fact that, there's a certain direction, for example, that banks and other institutions, are gravitating towards. So he gives examples of some iconic head offices. And even without him saying, look at the buildings that the banks are raising today as their headquarters. The Car Bank head office is there. The EcoBank head office is there. We've seen the Zenith Bank head office. And a number of them. We've seen Stanchart. We've seen ABSA coming up. And a whole lot. Their view is that the Bank of Ghana itself, that is a regulator of the space, deserves, a befitting building, and especially as that will form the basis of many things: security, West Africa Monetary Zone, and a whole lot of things. So this is not just a simple, ordinary building in its words. It has other things that, have accumulated to push the cost to what we have.
This is the most ridiculous, and probably, unacceptable, laughable, explanation I can hear from a governor for spending such an amount of money when your country is facing the kind of challenges that we are facing today. These are private banks. These are private people who have their money and who are even using the building as part of their marketing strategy. You are a regulator established by law and given those powers by law, not because of your marketing abilities. You really have no business using an iconic building to bolster your stature, because your stature is established by law. Anytime you have a problem with your stature, just come to Parliament and then we will review your law to give you whatever stature you need to function. It is not the edifice, the building in which you sit, that gives you the authority, that gives you the image. It is the law that gives you the image. So for you to tell me that you are going to spend a huge amount of money to also build an iconic building so that people will have a certain perception of you, when you cannot regulate the financial sector in such a way that businesses can lend at lower rates. I mean, this is the highest levels of incompetence that I can ever dream of or imagine. And that's the more reason why this man must leave office. How can you tell me that to really gain respectability, you must put up an iconic edifice? How does that edifice relate to productivity? Absolutely not. You need
but if you have a good working environment, it improves productivity, doesn't it?
How does an iconic building create a working environment? You go and then build such a huge edifice, and then you will have to spend so much money maintaining it. So that will put financial pressure on you. And then you will be forced to squeeze the banking sector to extract from them revenues that will enable you to maintain that edifice. And the revenue that you squeeze from them is revenue that they would have plowed into their business in order to lend to businesses so that we can create jobs. And you tell me that it's more prudent for you to extract that money from the financial sector to maintain such an edifice annually, every year. We're talking about the construction of a building. I'm going to write him a letter asking him how much will it cost to finish the building after he has constructed it. So this is just construction. How much will it cost him to finish it? And how much will it cost him to maintain it on an annual basis? And why would an ailing financial sector like ours prioritize a huge edifice and its maintenance vis-a-vis the need to leave the money in the banking sector so that they can be lending to businesses, so that they can expand and then create jobs for the teeming youth that are leaving universities every day and can't find a decent job? And you, a central bank governor, you tell us that it is better to put the money in an iconic edifice so that when you are going to office, you will feel very happy that you are going to work in one of the best environments in the world, when you have created a very, very messy financial sector that has, catapulted this country into one of the countries that has the highest unemployment rate, highest interest rate. One of the most expensive cities to live in West Africa is Accra. And you tell me that our priority should be an iconic building where you can sit in comfort and mismanage the finances of this country. And you think you should continue to be the governor of Central Bank of Ghana. We insist that this man must leave office, he and his deputies, and we are going to march to the bank until the president and anybody who is involved in his appointment deems it fit for the man to be removed, if he will not do the honorable thing of resigning.
Very well. Let me provide you some more details about why the cost of the building, got varied or changed. So in one of the paragraphs, page 5 of the statement he read, he said the initial design proposals projected a gross floor area of 73,000 square meters with the following details: 25-story tower block, 4-story car parking facility, 2-level basements, and auditorium. The need to reconfigure the spatial arrangements in order to meet all the relevant statutory requirements and functionality of the building resulted in modification of the initial design concept to the current gross floor area in excess of 100,000 square meters. So 73,000 square meters to in excess of 100,000 square meters. The project consists of 3 main blocks, namely tower, urban, and amenities blocks, including basements, podium, and ancillary services. So we have the tower block, which is a 20-story tower block, urban block, 8-story urban block, amenities block, 6-story amenities block, podium, upper ground, podium, lower ground, basement, 3-level basement car parking areas, ancillary facilities, energy farm, treatment plants, security gate houses. So these are quite extensive. So in addition to meeting the requirements of all relevant building codes, the building has incorporated sustainable design concepts such as energy conservation, water conservation, material selection, recycling, and reuse of waste, liquid and solid, humane adaptation, etc. So in essence, this is a very modern building that will maximize, the use of money or efficient use of resources. The Bank of Ghana maybe is forecasting to expand, take on other things, and become more efficient. And this is what they feel befits that status potentially.
I mean, as I listen to you, I just get very, very sad. Very sad, because these are the things that people who believe that they are not accountable to anybody for the wastage of public money will do with public money. I mean, really, does he have the moral authority to justify what he is doing with public money? I mean, this is unbelievable. In a country where public schools are so crowded, there's no infrastructure, where we cannot feed the children in the schools, where we owe farmers and women who have supplied foodstuff for feeding children in secondary schools, where the hospitals do not have the needed facilities, where people die every day of very, very curable diseases, either because the hospitals don't even have the facilities to diagnose them or the facilities to be used to treat those diseases, where your doctors and nurses are fleeing to other countries because you don't just even create the right working environment for them. And in that country, the governor thinks that the best use of public money is the construction of basements, of this, of that. I mean, come to think of it.
But Honorable,
this can only be done by somebody who thinks that he can waste public money at will without being accountable to anybody. That's why he's choosing to do that. If he really had the welfare of Ghanaians, at heart, he won't be doing what he's doing. Look, this is a regulator. This is not a commercial bank. He doesn't need all that space. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need to put up that show because, like I indicated earlier on, he is a mere regulator. He is not in the market competing with anybody. I mean, clearly, this governor and his team there just think they can take everybody for a ride and use public money the way they feel. And that's why we are saying that they must leave office. We cannot continue to tolerate them in office for another day.
Very well.
And we will fight it.
Very well. Seeing that this building, according to him, started some 3 years ago, and the fact that we cannot solve all our problems before we make progress in certain areas, is it not pushing it too far to suggest that we have problems with schools, we don't have teaching materials, we have bad roads, etc., and so the Bank of Ghana should not put up a building, to house its operations?
We didn't say the Bank of Ghana should not put up a building. Nobody has said that in this country. The Bank of Ghana is operating in a building. They are not operating on the streets. They are not operating, in car garages, Makola or any other places. They are operating in a building. If they need additional space, nobody has ever said that if there's a need for additional space for the central bank, that they shouldn't create that additional space. It is in the context of the suffering of ordinary Ghanaians for you to want to create such luxury for yourself, when it is your responsibility to create a financial system that helps lift poor Ghanaians out of their poverty. And you choose to use the money to create luxury for yourself and create space that, in my opinion, if we really do an analysis of personnel to space, we will see that the governor of the Bank of Ghana doesn't need all that space that this building is going to create. Look, I have read reports where they are saying that one of the things that they are aiming at is one day, if ECOWAS is going to establish a central bank, they will be in a good position and they have space to host an ECOWAS central bank. I'm sure you have heard that one also.
Exactly so. The West Africa Monetary Institute and all of that.
Clearly, so clearly his problem is not space today.
He's thinking about the future. He's thinking ahead.
Listen, his problem is to have a contract that has a colossal stamp, huge money.
Really?
What they will do with the money, we don't know. But it is so that the contract can be big, because even by just common sense, you can see that the PPA was telling them that the space you need should cost you $81 million. That was the message that was coming to them from the PPA. Why? The engineers at PPA, are they the most daft and stupid? They've looked at your documents, they've analyzed you, they've come to a conclusion that, hey, whatever space it is you need, it can be contained within $81 million. So do with $81 million. Then you go and say they unfairly reduce your figures. We establish them by law for the same purpose of making sure that they check. When people come and say, I want to build this, they say, no. This is how much we think you should spend on whatever building it is you want to put up. So you cannot circumvent them and tell us that they unfairly change your figure. Unfairly. You unfairly change the figure in relation to Ghanaian. Not PPA unfairly change your figures.
I see. Thank you so much. The Honorable Mahama Ayariga, Member of Parliament for BoG Central.